Yes, no. Friends, we're going to get started in just a few minutes. We're just bringing out the food, and we'll say a motzi, and then we'll begin. So just a few more minutes. Are we good? Okay. Friends, we're going to begin, and I just wanted to. I know that Howard and the family have some things they want to share. Shh. You should never come between Jews and food. It's a dangerous place to be. So we do have kind of a hard stop at 2:30 because there's, believe it or not, yet another program going on at the synagogue later this afternoon. So we want to get going, and we're going to start with a motzi, and then how we'll eat first and then talk? Okay. So if you'll join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. So please come help yourselves and then have a seat, and there'll be a bit of a program to continue in just a moment. Hey, Rabbi.
introduce you.
Yeah. You go, I go, Owen goes, Randy. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Check, check. Thank you, everyone. I hope you've gathered some food. Janet? Please continue to help yourself to the food. There's lots of it. And now I hope you can sit back and relax a little bit. At least I can. And enjoy some wonderful words and stories about Bud. I am actually going to do a little eulogy tonight at the Shiva, but what I'm going to do right now is a few important thank yous. First of all, I would like to thank a very tough job in a Jewish funeral, and that's to be a pallbearer. So I would like to name the pallbearers and thank them. First of all, I would like to thank Trevor Riback, Kevin Riback, Bill Gruenthal, Ed Bellsberg, Randy Lee, and Barry Rogers. And so I would like to thank you guys for doing a very tough job. I'd like to, no clapping. Yeah, it's okay. I'd like to thank Donna for obviously being a great partner in my life in organizing just about every event for my dad, the move into Sunrise, everything about today was organized by Donna. And in fact, everything about every day, I think, Donna organizes. So thank you, Donna, for that. And she has the most patience with my family, and so I appreciate that. Where is Barry anyway? Oh, yeah, okay. Next, I'd like to thank everyone at Temple Sholom. You heard a lot already about what Temple Sholom has done and been to our family. Just to let you know that we, the Rebacks, are family number 12 in the Temple Sholom history. And now we're over 1,000 families, I think. So Temple Sholom, I mean, has certainly been a major part of the Riback family history. Bar mitzvahs, weddings, blah, blah, blah. And they've allowed Bud and Faye to be integral parts of the operations of Temple Sholom. And I'd just like to thank everyone at Temple Sholom for that. It's been incredible. In fact, I think there was talk about Bud coming up here for a 60-plus meeting from Sunrise, which is 3 doors down, and after the lunch, the fellow that set up all the tables here walked my dad back to Sunrise so he can be back in his comfortable home. I would like to thank my brother for working so well with me, and I guess I worked well with him, I don't know. We really collaborated a lot on so many levels, taking care of our parents and organizing things like this, and it's great to see eye to eye with a sibling and communicate with a sibling. It doesn't always happen that way, but we certainly work well together. We can argue about a lot of things, and we have come a long way. Back when I was 16 and Barry was 18 or something around that, he did want to kill me. And my dad was out of town on business, and we got into a fight, and he did chase me away, and I had to get on my motorcycle and ride off to the sunset and stayed at a friend's for 3 days so that he didn't kill me. And my mom didn't have the power to stop him, so I did the right thing by running for the hills. We've come a long way, Barry. Way to go. Yeah. I'd like to thank my mom for all the years of taking care of my dad. Okay. And I know it's going to be very tough, but look what you have around you, Mom. And you've got some incredible friends and family, and we're all going to be there for you. I'd like to just take another opportunity to thank all those people that helped my dad over the many years that he needed care and attention. His main caregiver, Nora Valenzuela, is truly an angel. As Barry said, she's been involved with the family for 15 years, and I cannot believe what she has done for our parents. And she will continue to work with Mom now, and she's a real blessing. We've all heard at many of these thank yous and talks of thanking the institution or the home or the residence where the deceased was cared for. And here we go again. But we, as Barry said, we thank Sunrise Senior Living for giving Bud an incredible 3.5 months of beautiful life in his last 3.5 months. And he just had such a great time. And the love and care and attention and thoughtfulness from Sunrise. So thanks to everyone at Sunrise. And we always have to remember my dad spent 3 months in the hospital, and he spent another week in the hospital. And so we, the Riback family, would love to thank everyone at Richmond General Hospital. Those nurses and doctors and caregivers there are incredible. They have a very tough job. And finally, I'd like to thank all of you for attending today. It's very important. People have made dinners and brought food and gifts, but you brought yourselves today, and we really appreciate it. It's very special. And all because Bud was such a great guy, which he was. I'd like now to introduce Trevor, Bud's oldest grandchild, Barry's son, to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you.
I don't know about the clapping rules. Is that allowed? Can I take this off? Yep. Awesome. Hello, everyone. Today, we come together. This is going to be hard. One sec. We come together with hearts full of love.
I'll take over from Trevor. He wrote a beautiful speech. Today we come together with hearts full of love and gratitude to celebrate the amazing life of our grandfather. But my brother Trevor, sister Anya, and I are honored to share some of his favorite memories and pay tribute to a man who brought so much joy and wisdom into our lives, and so many others. Grandpa was more than a grandparent to us. He was a mentor, a sounding board, and a rock. From the earliest days, he filled our lives with love, sage advice, and of course, his favorite meal, breakfast. We'll never forget going to our grandparents for breakfast where Grandpa would make his specialty blueberry pancakes, or going out for breakfast and getting to order whatever we wanted, which included curly fries or hash browns and hot chocolate with extra whipped cream, like a lot of whipped cream. Not good for a kid like me. Those are memories we'll never forget, and we hope to make with our own grandkids one day. Whether it was his stories, gentle advice, or just an ear, Grandpa always had a way of making people feel special and understood. He had a way of creating community around him wherever he went because he always listened and truly cared what you had to say, welcomed everyone, and wanted you to succeed. Many conversations started simply with, "What's new? How's business?" or "Have a seat." He had a unique ability to make everyone feel special and valued. Everywhere Grandpa went, he built a network of lasting relationships, whether it was with his family, his friends, or colleagues, or people he met through Temple Shalom's senior programs, and most recently, Sunrise. Everyone knew Bud and held him in such high regard. He treated everyone with respect and kindness and had a permanent impact wherever he went. Shortly after he passed, I went to Sunrise to grab his talit. Trevor went to Sunrise to grab his talit, and he bumped into one of the staff members in the elevators, and she asked how Bud was doing. Sadly, he told her that the recent news, and she burst into tears, as if she had known Grandpa for decades. That was just the kind of guy he was, and the impact he had. He was everyone's Bud, pun intended. Grandpa's life was a display of strength and resilience. He faced many challenges, but he never let them define him. Instead, he used them to grow stronger, more compassionate, and more determined. His positive outlook and unwavering spirit were truly inspiring and continue to guide us. He taught us the strength isn't just about being physically strong, but also about being mentally tough and finding joy in the simple things in life. Even when he faced his health challenges, he did so with grace and courage, never losing his spirit. His resilience during tough times is a lesson we'll always remember. In times of doubt and uncertainty, we'll always hear your voice, reminding us to keep going and believe in ourselves. Grandpa, your love and lessons have shaped who we are today. Specifically, your unwavering love for your family inspires us as parents. A few days before he passed, Trevor was showing him some recent videos of his daughter Avery, and he said numerous times how proud he is of all of his grandchildren. I didn't clarify, but that probably included his great-granddogs too, who he loved dearly. Whether it was at his office, his workshop, or his room at Sunrise, the walls and tables were filled with photos of his family, his friends, and his pets, or grandpets. Today, while we may be sad to lose our grandpa, we also celebrate the incredible life he led. He leaves behind a legacy of kindness, compassion, respect, and resilience that will live on in each one of us. Thank you all for being here to celebrate the life of a truly wonderful man. May his memory be for a blessing. Is that low enough?
Yeah.
I'd like now to call up Luna, our daughter, for a few words. Thank you.
I'm way too short for this mic stand. My cousin's a tough act to follow, as always. Sorry, Dad. When I was a kid, my elementary school had a yearly event that they called Grandparents' Day. They would welcome the grandparents of the students into the school to give them an opportunity to see what their grandchildren were learning and to meet their friends and teachers. I remember my Bubby and Zadie being there every single year. I didn't realize then how lucky I was to be growing up with all four of my grandparents. Most people aren't afforded that privilege. I'm honored to be able to stand here today and speak on behalf of myself and my brother Brian, who can't be here today as he's working on Disney Cruise Line, an accomplishment of which I know our Zadie was incredibly proud. Throughout Brian's hospitality schooling, which led him to where he is today, Zadie was a constant source of encouragement, support, and advice, offering often to pass off the old budget customer service training manuals for Brian's perusal at any time. My brother and I grew up coming here to Temple Sholom for Hebrew school on Sunday mornings. I can't even count on all my fingers and toes how many times those mornings started with breakfast with my Zadie. It was from him that we learned the beauty of the International House of Pancakes, and him from whom I learned to always have the TV on for background noise. On the days when my brother and I slept over with Bubby and Zadie, lots of mornings started with alphabet cereal and frozen blueberries. To this day, I prefer my fruit frozen. My Zadie taught me so many things. He taught me the value of hard work and always showed pride when I talked about the job I had at any given time. He taught me the importance of family, community, and kindness. He showed me love in a way that only he could. I don't know if he knew, but he is one of the main reasons I know that family isn't only who you're given, but also who you choose. He never treated me any differently from his other grandchildren, despite my being adopted into the family. He taught me to love my Jewish roots, supporting my involvement in summer camp, youth group, and the temple community, even in ways as simple as seeing the Bud's Chair sign on a specific chair in the chapel reminded me that this was a place where I belonged. He was truly a pillar of the Temple Sholom community, a place where my brother and I both spent many of our formative years, and we are both incredibly proud to be associated with him as Bud Riback's grandchildren everywhere we go. We were also lucky enough to inherit his love for music and performance. He told us many stories of his time singing on the radio as a boy, and my brother shared with me a memory of him playing us an old tape recording of him singing. Several months ago, when I visited Zadie in the hospital, I had the pleasure of hearing him sing one last time. While listening to the recording of my brother singing Over the Rainbow, he couldn't help but sing along. I am so grateful to have that memory and the video of it to take forward with me. One of the more recent times that I saw my Zadie, he was struggling to speak, so he was writing things down to communicate with us. I was wearing a t-shirt with an Alice in Wonderland graphic that said Wonderland on it. I think we asked him if he knew who was in the room, and instead of writing down a name, he just wrote Wonderland. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now reflecting on that moment, I am inspired to take moments out of even the busiest of days to notice and acknowledge the wonder around me. Zadie has been there for every milestone, and it's hard to imagine a Seder without him at the head of the table. As we look forward to Hanukkah later this month, we know his calming presence will be noticeably missed. The positive spirit that he held tight right through to the end is an inspiration to us all to find the best in every situation, as there's always something to smile about. At sleepaway camp and youth group retreats, we would often close out our days with a ritual acknowledging something good and something bad that had happened that day, along with something we were looking forward to. We called them roses, thorns, and buds. Today, my thorn is rather self-explanatory, but finding my rose has been relatively easy as well. It is so incredibly heartwarming to see all of you here today to celebrate the life of my Zadie and to join my family in honoring his memory. In the spirit of the man we all knew as Bud, which I learned far too recently wasn't the name on his birth certificate, it feels appropriate to also think about my own Bud, something to look forward to in the future. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to watch the next generation of my family grow and to know that they get to grow up with their own memories of Zadie. I'm so glad that one day, when I have children of my own, they will get to learn about their great-grandfather and his legacy from everyone around them. With all the love in our hearts, we thank you, Zadie, for the life you lived, for the man you raised our father to be, and for the absolute myriad of memories that we get to hold in our hearts as we continue to grow from buds into roses. We love you, we miss you, and your memory will forever be for a blessing.
Thank you, Luna. Our next two speakers are from the budget world of Bud. And that was 40-odd years of incredible hard work, and really was special for all of our family. And we're missing the key component of Budget Rent-A-Car, and that would be Sid Belsberg, who had an operation on his knee and cannot attend today. But Sid and Bud were quite the team. And they created probably the best rent-a-car franchise in the world. And Ed was involved with Sid, and Ed's late brother, Hershey, was involved. And we all worked with all of them. And we had such a relationship together, the Belsberg brothers and the Riback family. And it was so special. So what we're going to hear now are two of the relationships that Bud and Sid had, two franchises that were created at that time, and they became very successful, and they became, and they are, and they were, and they love Bud, and they are really, really good friends of our family. I'd first like to call up Randy Lee from Campbell River.
Thank you, Howie. I hope I can get through this. First, I'd like to thank Howie, Barry, and Faye for asking me to attend. It's a great honor. I'd also like to pass on my love from Pat, my wife, that couldn't attend for medical reasons, that she has a big heart for you all, and it's tough. And she's texting me all day long, asking me what's going on and how it's going. I don't cry. I don't break down. I consider myself fairly strong, but this hurts. Bud was my mentor. He was a gentleman, and he was a very good friend. I was involved and enjoyed Bud for over 50 years. Bud, along with Faye, were very instrumental, or they were the ones that got my wife, Pat, and myself together and married within 1 month. Faye didn't take no for an answer, and she says, don't wait around. And then she says, I want your American Express card because I'm going to take Pat shopping. So we've been married 43 years, and I truly, truly have to say, because it's because of Faye and Bud, or it would never have happened. And we have two lovely growing boys and two granddaughters, and we couldn't be more blessed. And over the years, even when Bud retired and I kind of got out of the budget, we've been very close and kept in contact. And I must say that in my younger days with budget, I had a relationship with Barry and Howie that involved fishing in Campbell River, which I can't discuss because it's quiet. Let's just say when they were young, we were crazy. But I kept in touch, and the home that he went into, I had the pleasure and honor of visiting him twice. And the last visit was just roughly 3 weeks ago. I came down. The one before that was Faye and myself and Bud, and we had lunch for a few hours. This one was just Bud and I, and we went and had lunch and talked for almost 3 hours. And he was sharp. We talked about Portland, Calgary, the fire, buying all the stuff, the whole transition out to BC. We just talked, and I felt very, very fortunate. And he just was sharp and healthy and looked good. But it was amazing wheeling him down to the private back room where they always put us for lunch, and everybody sitting, and it was full of hundreds for lunch, all waving and saying hi to Bud as he went. It was like going through a parade. And he was a very proud man. Our first contact with Bud was with my father over 65, 66 years ago. He had flown into the Vancouver airport. We live in Campbell River. He had some of his tugboats down here being worked on, and he was in to check them out, and he decided to rent a car instead of a taxi. And Bud was at the counter at the Vancouver airport renting cars. And Dad went to rent a car, and he asked about the car rental business. He was quite an entrepreneur, and he had lots of different businesses, and he thought this might be a good one in Campbell River. And Bud went to the back, and Sid was back there as normal playing cards. He was playing poker with a couple of guys. And Bud said, I got a guy out here from Campbell River that's interested in maybe a franchise in Campbell River. And Sid said, oh shit, what would that be? Just 2 cars, 3 cars? I don't want anything to do with them. Just don't interrupt my, I'm sorry I swore. Anyhow, Sid says a lot worse. Anyhow, Bud said, but he's got an American Express credit card. Well, Sid came to the front, because in those days, there weren't very many around. And that's where it all started. Bud and my dad started the franchise with Bud's support. I quit school in grade 10 and went working for my dad and budget and the other deals, and Bud was right there. He was kind of my mentor. Well, he was my mentor. He guided me. But the one thing I want to say from 3 weeks ago, having lunch with him, and today, Bud had it. When you were with him, he had it. You just felt good. You felt comfortable. You felt that you were absorbing knowledge, advice, support. There was absolutely nothing negative with Bud and Bud's communication and his life. And that goes back to his classes, his support. Bud was just such a positive, looking forward individual. And I'm just so blessed to have him as a friend. And between, my dad passed away 7 or 8 years ago, between Bud and my dad, they're pretty well equal. And next in line is my second mother, which is Faye. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Randy. That's so cool. A lot of my university friends know Randy well from our fishing expeditions up in Campbell River. And after the lunch or tonight or Saturday or Sunday, you're more than welcome to get an earful from me on those stories. But just remember his face, and then we'll get to the stories any time. But it was a very special time. Another really close friend of Bud's is Barry Rogers from Nanaimo. even though they were very close, Randy and Barry, Barry decided to venture the budget rent-a-car stuff into other parts of British Columbia, as Randy did too. But Barry's a fantastic entrepreneur himself, and he's a fellow boater, and he has been very kind to Donna and I in lending us a slip in Victoria when we needed a slip for our boat. And what I really, really would like is his boat. But I'm working on it. And as part of that activity, I'd like to call up Barry Rogers to say a few kind words about Bud. But they're all very special.
Thanks, Howie. I just want you to know, just picking up on your last statement there, takes a lot more than that to get the vote. I started my career at Avis Rent-A-Car, and after 5 or 6 years there, I was looking across the street at the budget office, and it was a very new company at the time. I think this was in 1967, but the company had started in budget started in '62, and I saw what incredible things they were doing across the street. And being a young entrepreneur, I guess, I started watching. One thing led to another, and I started talking to the manager of budget, and I said, what would it take to do something with you? And he says, well, I want you to go from Victoria up to Nanaimo and start an office up there. And I said, how could something like that happen? And he said, well, first off, you have to go see 2 people, Sid Bellsberg and a Bud Riback. And I said, okay. And he said, I think, they'll be really excited to see you. So anyway, I walked into the office in Vancouver. I had a partner at the time, or I thought I had a partner at the time. And I said, we'll come over and see you, which we both did. And basically, more Sid than Bud, but I felt that we got blown out of the office. We didn't have any business acumens at all, and so I kind of gave up on that idea. And about a month or so later, I was talking to the fellow in Victoria. He said, have you done anything with this franchise yet? And I said, no. I said, the partner that I had wasn't interested. And he says, wow, this doesn't make any sense. So he picks up the phone and he said, hey, Sid, he said, I sent a young fellow over there to see you about a franchise. And he says, yeah. Sid on the other end of the line said, yeah. He said, he's going to check out a few things. One of them was a location. And he said, he'll get back to me. So he puts down the phone. He said, he's expecting you back again. And I said, oh. And so I made arrangements, walked over, and this was my first encounter with Bud. And so I sat down, and he said, first off, where's your partner? And I said, well, he kind of lost interest. He says, well, that's good, because we didn't like him anyway. I said, I don't think you thought much of either one of us. And, we knew you'd be back. And so anyway, it seemed like the next day. I'm sure it wasn't. But Sid sent Bud and I over to Nanaimo from Vancouver to start an office. And Bud said to me, he said, so what have you accomplished so far? And I said, what I've got is the front of a service station, and it's $200 a month, which was, even back in 1967, that was a really cheap rent, free parking, all the rest of it. And I said, let me show it to you as we got off the ferry. Now, if you could picture this, we had 2 Chrysler products, a filing cabinet in the trunk of one of those two cars, which was going to be my counter, and I was planning on moving in that day. And Bud said to me, he said, "I'm a little worried, Barry." He said, "I don't think you have, at the end of the year, $200 is $2,400 a year." And he said, "That could make the difference between you surviving and going broke." Wow. I said, what are you suggesting? He said, "Oh, I want to take you up to an acquaintance I have to another service station." And he said, "And let's check it out first." I said, but I have this location right here." He says, "Let's check out the other thing." So I thought I'd better listen to him. And so we went up to the service station. He said, the fellow's name was Hank. And he said, "Hank," he said, "I've got this young fellow, Barry Rogers. He wants to start a budget franchise." And so Hank said, "Well, what's in it for me?" And Bud said, "Have you got time for coffee?" And so there's a coffee shop across the street. We're walking across the street. Bud said to me, he said, "I had to get him off that train of thought. Just follow my lead." I said, "Okay." So we sat down, had a cup of coffee, and Bud said to this Hank, it was a Pacific 66 station, which became Petro-Canada way back along the line. And he said, "I know you're in the service station by yourself until your wife comes in and does the books, right?" And he said, "Yeah." And he says, "So what do you do when you need a part from a downtown jobber?" And Hank says, "Well, that's a real problem because I can't do it until my wife gets in." He says, "You ever been under the hood of a car and the bell goes off at the pump and you have to leave what you're doing?" He says, "Oh, God, all the time I have that problem." He says, "Well," he says, "I've got Barry here. All he needs is the space of a filing cabinet in the front office, and he'll look after your pumps because he's not going to be that busy. He'll look after your pumps for you. And I think he'd probably even go down and get some parts for you if you need it too, because being a one-person service station." So Hank says, "Well, what's this going to cost me?" Bud said, "Absolutely nothing." So he says, "Wow, I think there's something wrong here, but okay." He said, "So your name's Barry?" "Yeah." And he said, "So when do you want to move in?" "About 10 minutes from now." And so we made the deal. But that was the caring. And we talk about the budget family. It actually got better than that because I actually was, I was called the other Barry when I'd phone Faye, and she'd say, "Bud, Barry's on the line." I said, "The other Barry." And she said, "The other Barry's on the line." And so, but, over the years, Howie and Barry have been like family. I guess it was partly the timing because I lost my father about 2 years before, and it just happened to be that Bud fit into that position, whether he liked it or not. That was extracurricular for him. Look after him, look after the franchise holder, and be his father if he needs to. And Bud's famous line to me was he called up on a weekly basis, and he'd say, "Barry, Bud." I said, "Oh, hi, Bud." He'd say, "What's doing?" I said, "Nothing much." And Bud should have been a counselor if he never made it as a car rental manager, because for some reason he'd pull information out of you, whether you liked it or not. And by the time the conversation's in about 5 or 10 minutes, I'd say, "Oh, and this happened." And conversation a little more. "Oh, and you know what? The other day we just got another account." "Oh, good. And anyway, after about 15 minutes, I felt better, as I always did after talking to Bud. And because his way of making you feel better about yourself. And I heard all the comments this morning, and I'll throw in a couple of funny stories. Bud turned 50 years old, and somehow, I think he was pushed, but anyway, he fell in the pool, broke his leg, and he had a cast that went from the ankle to the thigh, as I remember it. And I said, "Oh, this isn't good news, Bud," because I'm in Nanaimo, Bud's in Vancouver. I said, "I've arranged a visit from the two of us to go see," it was Air West, which became Air BC later, which became Air Canada. But I had a program set up, but I couldn't do it myself. I needed Bud there. So I had a flashback today, being a pallbearer, when I put Bud in the back of that vehicle. And I thought, this has happened before. As it turns out, almost 50 years ago, we did exactly the same thing. We took Bud, we put him in the back of a station wagon, which for the younger people here, an SUV, and off to the meeting we went. But his comment was when I said, you know, I don't know how to carry on this meeting unless you're going to be by my side. He says, I'll be there. I'll be there. And I said, how? Look at you. And he said, just find a station wagon. He attended the meeting. I think we got the account because they were feeling sorry for him, which was kind of cool. They also saw the determination. One of the key things that we talked about this morning is, you know, what do you remember best about your father? And hardworking was one of those things. So he attended the meeting. As I say, we got the exclusive contract, and the rest is history, I guess. But that was what Bud was. He was always there personally if you needed him. He was there, you know, in a corporate sense. He had absolute respect from so many people, and I'm sorry. No, I'm not really sorry at all. I'm going to bring up something Barry touched on this morning, which triggered another memory, and he was talking about stuttering. So we all know Bud stuttered, and so he's up at the front of the room, something like this, and we had a Budget of BC meeting, which in those days there was 30 of us all in a room, and we had a problem, what we called a problem franchise in Duncan, British Columbia, and this guy, I guess, was famous for complaining, but he sent a truck over to Vancouver with blankets and a fridge dolly, appliance dolly, that you have in the back of the truck, and this fellow couldn't find his dolly, so he accused Bud, definitely, that somebody had stole his fridge dolly. And so Bud was at the front of the room, and he said, if I hear one more thing about your dolly, he said, you're not coming to another meeting. And anyway, he turned to the girl that was taking notes. He says, you don't have to write that down. There was not a stutter in his thing. But he was so upset, and I think the more upset he got, the more he stuttered. But so anyway, the funny things, and if I make light of things, it's only because I can get through it. If I have humor and the emotion doesn't come in, but I enjoyed this morning the song from Brian. I thought that was so cool. How do you not attend an event but to be such a part of it? And it was quite touching. So Faye, I'm still going to call you, even though it's just to talk to you and keep in touch with you. And you are my family. Thank you for the welcome here today. I thank you, Howie, for inviting me to be a pallbearer, to be a part of something that huge. And I can take that with me for a long, long time. But thank you for inviting two non-Jewish people in here and making them feel at home. And that's the family that it's always been and it always will be. Anyway, thank you.
These two guys from Vancouver Island are, you can tell they're a bit soft-spoken, but they are very loud. They are very successful business people, and they created incredible relationships to become that successful. And that was sort of part of Bud as well, who was not your loudest guy, but he was always heard, and he loved to experience your experiences as well. I'd like to ask Barry to come up and say a couple more things.
There was a guy who ran and went into a Bible. No, sorry, I won't start with that again. I'd like to read an email we got from my mom's sister, Heidi. She goes, "Dear Barry, thank you for your call earlier. I was stunned. I just spoke to your dad a few days ago, and he was fine, happy, and looking forward to his future. Things happen, and now he's gone. He left you a beautiful legacy. He was the man who had a great character. He was humble yet approachable. He had a beautiful soul. He was always there for his family. They were his pride and joy. He had wonderful memories, and may they bring you beautiful blessings. Love, ID." Lastly, we've heard a lot of good things about my dad. He's been a proud guy, a happy guy, but at some event somewhere, someone read this poem that stuck to me, and I thought I would just like to share it with everybody today. It says, "I read from a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend who referred to the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came was their date of birth and spoke the following dates with tears. But she said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they'd spent alive on earth, and now only who loved her more know that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live in love and how we spend our dash. So think long and hard. Are the things you'd like to change, for you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and quick appreciate and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and often wear a smile, remembering this little dash might last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's action to rehash, would you be proud of the things that they say and how you lived your dash? Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up and talk? Okay. Well, I would... Okay, that's enough. If you have a meeting tomorrow, you should maybe leave.
Oh, my darling little boys.
You cheeky.
Oh, I can even sit and be comfortable, too. I believed everybody that talked and said what Bud is, or who Bud was, and what he did, and what he tried to do. And one thing that he didn't ever talk about, but you didn't have to, is that if he liked you, he would do everything. If he didn't particularly hit, then he wouldn't bother you. And I'll tell you that that really rang, because there were a number of people, and then everybody sort of went like this and said, he knows how to pick them, doesn't he? You know, with everything. I'm looking around here, and I am just appreciating. There's all the friends of Howard's. There were friends of Barry's. There were friends of mine for sure. There's families that I could kiss and love. And I thank you all for being here. And I thank you all for thinking about Bud. The one thing he really was mad at me about was that I didn't teach him to play with us. I said, no. We don't have any guys playing our games, right? So here are my people that kept, and we had wonderful sessions, and I won't tell you what they were, but anyway, they were wonderful sessions, and we won't forget that. And I thank you all for being here and hearing what we thought of Bud, and I'm glad that you all followed us, because you all felt like Bud. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom. With that, I want to thank you all for coming. I'll remind you, there's a Shiva tonight at our house at 4900 Cartier Street. If you need any further details, let me know. And it is at 6:30. And then there's two other Shivas, Saturday night here and Sunday night here at 4:30. So thank you. Drive home safely. If you want to see some old pictures of Bud, you can come on up. And if you want any fishing stories,